Welcome everyone to Insight Meditation Community of Charlotte. Take a moment to kind of just stretch, say hello to somebody, and welcome our Zoomers. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm Clyde, one of the 6 Dharma leaders that we have here that do the teaching here. And tonight I'm going to start out by reading a very brief sutta that's in the Anguttara Nikaya. And the title of it is Developing a Pair of Skills. This is the Buddha speaking. 2 things, O monks, partake of true knowledge. What 2? Serenity and insight. When serenity is developed, the mind is developed. When the mind is developed, all lust or greed is abandoned. When insight is developed, wisdom is developed. When wisdom is developed, all ignorance is abandoned. A mind defiled by lust is not liberated, and wisdom defiled by ignorance is not developed. Thus, monks, through the fading away of lust, there's liberation of mind, and through the fading away of ignorance, there's liberation by wisdom. Now, what struck me about this particular sutta when I came across it when I was doing some preparation for the DSPP program. Most of my time in dealing with and being in this tradition, I've always heard that the overall practice was concentration and insight. Concentration and insight, and that's still true. But but Bhikkhu Bodhi says the 2 things most needed to master the mind are serenity and insight. So I looked into this thing. What is this idea of serenity? What is it? What are we talking about here? I really like the word serenity. I think that is much broader and more welcoming than concentration, because I always thought concentration was so specific. It was so hard, and I had to reach the 9th jhana before I could get any type of insight. And I'm focused on concentration. So I started looking into this, and serenity is Samatha. Samatha is a Pali word for serenity, and then vipassana is the Pali word for insight. Bhikkhu Bodhi goes on to say that development of the mind means the development of serenity and insight. When serenity is developed, it leads to concentration and the liberation of the mind from such emotional defilements as lust and ill will. When insight is developed, it leads to the higher wisdom of insight into the true nature of phenomena and permanently liberates the mind from ignorance. And one of the things we know in here is that ignorance is the cause of all of our suffering. We're ignorant of the way things are, so therefore we act and we suffer. And it says that the cultivation of serenity requires skill in steadying, composing, unifying, and concentrating the mind. The cultivation of insight requires skill in observing, investigating, and discerning conditioned phenomena. So tonight, I wanted to look at this idea of serenity. I want to look at that a little bit more. How's it defined? It's kind of defined as this calmness, this tranquility, a quietness, a stillness. And I, for one, need a lot more of this in my life. I think in the world in which we live today, I feel like I've missed the idea of this tranquility because I've been focused on concentration. And so the other thing I want to look at in this is in the context of, as I develop serenity, and we're developing, and he's talking about serenity in our mind, we're developing the mind, the serenity of the mind. How is that showing up in my life, in my day-to-day life? Does it show up in both places? Because that's where I want to see the tranquility and the calmness and the serenity, is in my day-to-day life. So the idea here is Samatha, or serenity, is the initial stage of meditation in which the mind is calmed and quieted. The ensuing stage is vipassana, in which the mind sees clearly and directly. So serenity prepares the mind for insights to arise. The other thing I like about the idea of this serenity is not only if it can show up in my day-to-day life, is that we know is that this is something I can do. This is what we can do. I have some agency here. Insights are kind of like we prepare the mind for insights to arise. I can't make insights arise, but I can prepare the mind for that. So this idea of serenity is something we can do. So what we want to do is, what are some of the ways? So I just looked at what are some of the ways we can develop serenity, and do these things also help this tranquility show up in my life? So these are some things I came up with. Well, the Buddha came up with them first, but I'm gonna be on his coattails, let's put it that way. The first one is, the first thing that Buddha taught was the practice of generosity. And this idea of generosity, first thing he taught to people who came and wanted to study with him, he said, be generous, practice generosity. And it's a form of renunciation. It's the antidote to greed and clinging, which we know greed is what causes, this clinging is what causes suffering. For me, renunciation, it's more of a, it's a letting go. For me, it's more of a contentment thing. If I have enough to give, it could be resources, time, knowledge, any of this. If I can give it away, that means I have enough. That means there's a contentment there. I have enough of this. I'm not going to be less. I'm not going to have lack if I could give it away. And that has a little bit of calmness around it. I'm not losing it. I'm not holding on to anything, which is tension and not tranquility. So the practice of generosity is one thing we can do. The second thing, the next thing, here are the ethical, the sealer practices that we have. And just to give you an indicator, in November, the first 3 days, first three Wednesday nights in November, we're going to be doing our fall series. And it's going to be on the Noble Eightfold Path. In the spring, we did the Four Noble Truths. We're going to look at the Noble Eightfold Path. But we're going to be looking at it from the standpoint of the training sequence. We're not going to be looking at it the traditional way it's going. So the first thing in the training sequence is the ethical, the sila steps. These you're probably familiar with. The first one is right speech. Am I abstaining from false speech, slanderous speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter? And I think that we can see if I'm not abstaining from some of these, I'm not going to have a very tranquil life. I'm not going to have a lot of serenity in my life if I'm lying, if I'm being harsh speech, or if I say something about someone, I'm afraid it's going to come back. Oh, someone said, Clyde said this about you. That doesn't lead to tranquility or calmness in my mind or in my day-to-day life. The second one, the next step, is this idea of right action. Abstain from taking life, abstain from taking what is not given, and abstain from sexual misconduct. Each of these, if I'm not doing these, I was like these, if I'm not abstaining from these, they're going to create unrest, turmoil in my life. Not only in my mind, so when I go to sit, I'm going to be thinking about these things, but outside in my day-to-day life, I'm going to be causing suffering for other people. These things are going to, if I'm lying, if I'm taking what is not given, if I'm stealing, someone's going to catch me at this. That's not tranquility. That's not serenity. Then the next step is the idea of right livelihood. And this is just saying that we earn our income in a legal, peaceful, honest way with no harm or suffering for others. So I think most of us do that. Most of us have that situation. If we're not, we're probably not going to have a very calm life. Then the next group of things we can do, and this is the next part of the training. And by the way, all this that I'm talking about, you'll get deeper into it in November when we do the talks on these. So I'm just giving the overview of this. It's called Samadhi, it's the concentration piece. I like to call it our meditation practice, the meditation piece. And this has to do with right effort, where we're dealing with we're trying to identify wholesome and unwholesome states of mind. Am I operating out of greed, hatred, and delusion, my intention and my actions, or am I operating out of generosity, renunciation, loving kindness, and knowledge? And part of what we're doing is learning to see that. And we learn to see that if I operate with unwholesome states of mind, I'm going to cause suffering for myself and others, i.e. not a tranquil, no serenity there. But if I start to operate out of wholesome states of mind, I don't create suffering, my life has more calm. And the other thing about that too is there's an idea of confidence around that. I may not see the result of it right then, but knowing that I'm operating out of this wholesome state of mind, I can have some confidence, and that gives me some steadiness in what I do. Then there's right mindfulness, the ability to be able to see all that, to be able to see the states of minds, being able to practice it. We sit in our meditation, we see unwholesome states arise, we see them rise, we see them pass away, we see our reaction to them if we're not mindful. We will react out of those and create more suffering, but this idea of being mindful and having a meditation practice. And then all of this leads to right concentration. And that allows the mind to be able to get calm, to be open. They call it, and this is samadhi, right concentration, but it's this type of mind is unified. It's characterized by non-distraction. It's clear, it's bright, it's unhindered, it's unified, and it's agile. So that's the mind we're going to. And we think about that, well, that's the way we want to be in our daily life. We want to be light. We want to be carried light. We don't think heavy. We want to be non-distracted, unhindered. We want to be agile. That's the way we want to live our lives. So we want to see it in our mind and in our day-to-day life. So those are some of those. There's some more things. The next thing we can do is develop the Brahma Viharas. We know those. We want to operate out of metta or loving kindness. That's the antidote to anger. Compassion, develop compassion. We see the suffering in the world, we want it to end. We want the suffering to end, and we want to operate out of that wholesome mind state. Sympathetic joy is this idea of being happy for other people's happiness. This other person got the job, I should have gotten that job. This person, they're getting this, I should have gotten this. How can I be happy for other people? If I'm jealous of what other people are having and doing, that's not a calm, tranquil mind state or a way of being. You're running around angry and jealous all the time. And then the development of equanimity. And equanimity is this idea of balance, where I'm not being pulled, and the mind's not being pulled to this way and that way. One of the teachers I was reading about, we look at everything as positive and negative, and we quit looking at things that way. We just take everything the way it is. We're not being pulled. And for me, equanimity is kind of a form of serenity too in my life. It's that if I'm calm, I'm settled, I'm equanimous, that is kind of like a serenity, a tranquil way of being. The next thing we can do, and one that I really try to work with, is to guard the six senses. Guarding what's coming into the six senses. And the six senses are what we see, what we smell, what we taste, what we hear, what we touch, and what we think. I think this one is real important for serenity in my daily life, given all the stuff that's coming in. in this world right now, in the world we live in, if you watch the news, you get angry, you get this, if you talk the same thing over and over, we have to really guard what is coming in through our six senses, because that can really disturb the mind, and it can also make you agitated all day long. So we want to guard that. We want to watch it, limit what we bring in, or manage it. What do I bring in? What do I see? So guarding the senses is another way that we can help to develop serenity for the mind and for my daily life. It helps me. And the last thing that I thought of that I've been working with a lot is developing patience. I don't know about you, but if you ride around this park road around here a little bit, I don't know if y'all have seen this sign that says right lane closed ahead. Every time I go in the car and get out there, right lane closed ahead. It happened this morning. They're putting up the utility poles. I had to get my hair cut. Well, that was earlier in the morning, what I normally do. Pulled out, I got in the left lane because I always go down the left lane. Well, there was a sign that said right lane closed ahead. Traffic was there. I actually needed to be in the right lane to turn. So what happens? You get all agitated. That's straight out. I can't think. And then I go, wait a minute. Let's be patient here. And I brought some patience. And it's amazing when you just bring patience in, it kind of just calms you down. And I did, because I was like, okay, I'm going to be calm. I need to get over in the right lane. I didn't want to, I just kind of, eventually, the person I got over, made the turn, got there in plenty of time. But I just brought in that idea of patience. And it just calmed me down. I was like, okay, it's just a haircut. If I'm late, that's okay. But I would have been, I got to get over and, get your blanket, hey, person, let me over. Why are they doing this now? But see how that bringing in the idea of patience blocked all that other agitation that I was going to do. And it helped me. And if we use patience not only with the situation we're in, we have patience with other people. Think about if we can bring patience into our relationships, how they would be a lot more easier to work with, to kind of be there with the person and calm things down. And a lot of patience with ourselves. I could have beaten myself up. We should have gotten up early, should have known, they should have known what was going on. No, I didn't. This is where I am right now. This is what I'm doing. Let's just be patient. It'll work out. So developing patience is just a great tool to help kind of calm you down, or it helps me. Let's put it that way. So anyway, these are some of the things that we have the Noble Eightfold Path that gives us developing. So what we're trying to do here is say this idea of serenity brings calm and peace. It cultivates a peaceful mind. Knowledge or insights naturally occur with a rightly collected, quiet, peaceful mind. And that's what we're doing in our practice. But we're also this idea of serenity. How can I make my mind serene? How can I bring that into my daily life? Bhikkhu Bodhi talks about it when he's talking about the meditation piece. He says meditators start off differently. Eventually, they must all strike a healthy balance between serenity and insight. The exact point of balance between the two will differ from one person to another, but when a meditator achieves the appropriate balance, serenity and insight join forces to issue in the knowledge and vision of the Four Noble Truths. That is the first step on the Noble Eightfold Path. Is being aware of the Four Noble Truths. So, what I want you to do over the next week or so, and the one thing too about this idea of serenity, and I'm going to give you some more directions here, but is to notice it. I think I have a lot more calm and serenity in my life, but I don't notice it. I don't notice it. We're so caught up in it's always the negative thing we focus on. There are lots of moments in my life where it's really calm, you know. Okay, calm and serenity is here, not only in my mind, but in my life. And I encourage you over the next 12 to kind of notice that. Oh, things are calm. The other day I was anger, I was walking, anger came up because I was thinking about something in politics. Anger came up and I thought, oh, wait a minute, there's anger. That's a unhealthy, unwholesome thought. It helped break that. And then I noticed, it hasn't been up in a while. I haven't had that thought in a while. So there must be some serenity, tranquility around it. And I think we miss it. So folks, kind of could be aware. Have I had a calm day? Is my mind calm? Is my life calmer? So now I end with what Shayla Catherine, she's a Dharma teacher, says about working with this. She says, throughout each day, innumerable opportunities invite compassionate, skillful, and wise action. Your life provides many occasions to abandon harmful attitudes and actions and to cultivate wholesome states. Every moment presents an opportunity to bring mindfulness and wisdom into your responses to living. That's what we're doing, these responses to living. How you engage with your daily life will affect your quality of attention and facility with meditation. You can create a lifestyle that supports your interest in serenity and insight. Notice that what your attention is drawn to when you're driving, waiting, relaxing, whatever you're doing, eating. Do you feel ease and tranquility and calmness? Or do you feel the quiet moments with entertainments and fantasies? If you're often seduced by television, movies, the internet, or become frantic with work and relationship dramas, it may be difficult to quiet the mind and see clearly. Whatever your family, work, economic, and social responsibility may be, you have an enormous influence over how you engage with your own life's conditions. What kind of life are you creating for yourself? Is it the life you want to live? Here's to a serene and tranquil life.